Hands. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out on this windy evening. My name is Misha Stone. I'm a Reader Services librarian here at the Central Library. And before we begin, we respectfully acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral lands of many indigenous peoples, particularly those of the Coast Salish region. This includes the Duwamish, Suquamish, and Muckleshoot peoples, among others, who have lived in relationship with the land and waters of the Puget Sound since time immemorial. I'll also mention that library resources are a great place to start if you're looking to learn more about colonization and its impacts on Native peoples and their lands. We're so lucky tonight to have Laurie Frankel and Kevin O'Brien together tonight to talk about Laurie's latest novel, Enormous Wings, which I have to mention is a peak pick right now. Woo! But we also want you to buy copies from Elliott Bay Book Company because libraries and bookstores are in community, we're in relationship, and we all are doing the best we can to celebrate books and authors and get their works out there into your hands. I want to thank our sponsors, the Gary and Connie Kunis Foundation and the Seattle Times, for generous support of library programs. Thank you also to the Seattle Public Library Foundation, whose support helps the library provide so many of our free programs and services for everyone in our community. And we also want to thank our amazing community partner, Elliott Bay Book Company. Sophia and Cindy are here tonight, again, selling books and all the work that we do collectively to celebrate authors and books. And when you come out and support these events, we can do more of them. So thank you so much. We're nothing without them, really. A couple of orders of business. The library does close at 8 o'clock. The restrooms out here to the right close, as do the ones over in Children's, just for about 5-10 minutes. So at 8:10, if we're still signing books, they'll open again. And you can always come find me if that hasn't happened yet. There's going to be a Q&A after the event, and then we'll also be running a mic just to make sure that everyone can hear the questions you have. And now I'm going to pass it over to Sophia, who will do a proper introduction with this nice little handheld mic.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Yes, great. Hello. Thank you, Misha, and everyone here at the library for coordinating this event with us. It's so wonderful to see you all here tonight. Thank you for being here. It's always an absolute pleasure to present events in like a beautiful auditorium like this instead of our dusty little basement at Elliott Bay. So this is very nice, very bright and beautiful in here. Very high ceilings also. My name is Sophia Brecken. I'm the events manager at Elliott Bay Book Company. As I'm sure you all know, we are here tonight to celebrate the release of the wonderful new book, Enormous Wings, by the wonderful Laurie Frankel, who is right there. Laurie was supposed to be in conversation with Nancy Pearl tonight, but she's unfortunately under the weather. So we have the delight of having Kevin O'Brien join Laurie on stage. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. As Misha said, you can purchase the books, various books by Kevin, Laurie, and Nancy, over at the table over there with a giant sign that says Elliott Bay Book Company. That is us. We are here. Cindy's very happy to sell you books. And you can also borrow the book from your local library, which you're in right now, as Misha said. How convenient. I would also love to mention that we have many awesome events coming up, such as Ray Naylor with Nicola Griffith at the bookstore on June 2nd, which is an event that is co-sponsored by the Seattle Public Library. And there's a discussion of decolonizing translation with contributors of the new book, Violent Phenomena, on June 9th. And then we have Kim Thale of Soundgarden launching his memoir on June 11th alongside Chris Novoselic of Nirvana. So some people are really into that combo, as I'm sure here in Seattle. So these can all be found on our website as well as our email newsletter, which you can sign up for our website. And then we have some print calendars in store as well. Now, without further ado, I have the great pleasure of introducing our speakers. Laurie Frankel is the New York Times bestselling award-winning author of the novels Family, 1, 2, 3, Goodbye for Now, The Atlas of Love, and the Reese's Book Club pick, This Is How It Always Is, and also Enormous Wings. Frankel lives in Seattle with her husband, daughter, and border collie. Before his thrillers landed him on the New York Times and USA Today bestseller lists, Kevin O'Brien was a railroad inspector. He is the author of 24 internationally published thrillers and served on the board of Seattle 7 Writers. He is currently hard at work on his 25th novel. Hard at work? Yeah. Enormous Wings is an urgent novel about female agency and bodily autonomy, morality, and mortality, and of course about a 77-year-old Pepper Mills who gets pregnant. Please join me in welcoming Laurie and Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Nancy was very sorry not to be here. So if you came to see Nancy, I'm sorry you have to have
You're
us.
stuck with me.
You're stuck with
I'm
us.
sorry.
She's wonderful. She's just ill. But and the wrinkle here is that Kevin and I are very close, and so sometimes we start talking and we forget that you all are out there.
Yes.
So do just feel free to flag us down and say, "Shut up! Stop talking about
Shut
that."
the hell up.
But truly, thank you all so much for being here. It's really wonderful to see you all.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have a question here about. Tell us about your love for Shakespeare. I crossed it out because I just figured she's just going to go on and on and on. We
Yes.
won't be able to shut her up.
That's true.
So
That's a good
I'm
point.
just like,
yes.
no.
Yes, Nancy, when she emailed to say that she was sick, said that she was going to start off by talking about theater.
Well,
and
in fact, that's my first question.
Oh, it
'cause
is?
In
Okay.
honor of
In
Nancy,
honor of
I was
Nancy
going to
Pearl, okay.
ask her first question, and I was like, this would lead into Shakespeare. I was like, no, don't go there. Don't go to Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So should we start? Are you
Yeah,
ready to get
are
started?
you all ready to get started? Yes.
I
Okay, we'll start.
Apologize
But we'll have
'cause I'll
questions.
be reading some of them.
Yes, you read some of them. We'll have Q&A. It'll be great.
It'll be great.
It'll be great. Okay, go ahead. I'm ready.
All right. In honor of Nancy, let's begin with her first question was, I wanted to start the conversation at the library by telling you what a terrific storyteller you are. Are you sure Nancy came up with this and not
I
you?
know.
How you immediately draw the reader into the lives of your characters and ask you how you think you do that. Is it somehow or in some way connected to your love of theater?
Yes, isn't that a nice question?
Isn't that a great question?
I know, it is a great question. Well, Nancy's very good.
I know. It's downhill from here, folks. It's like after that, it's me. I'll be like, what's your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink, okay.
Okay. Yes. Nancy and I, when we are together, talk a lot about storytelling. She's also a very good storyteller, as are you, a very good storyteller.
Thank you.
I am, as a reader, very frustrated by books that take a long time to get started. My agent, one of the very first things she said to me was, Edith Wharton would never have gotten published today, by which she meant start telling the story.
Right.
Nobody is going to give you 100 not that I'm Edith Wharton, but that people don't want to wait 100 pages for the story to get started, and I feel like that too. I had never necessarily connected that to theater per se, but it certainly makes a lot of sense because
you got to grab them.
Because you
right
got to
away.
grab them, yeah. Because theater is interesting from curtain up and is really very good about starting in the middle of the action. And so are you, because you usually have somebody dead by the end of like page 3.
I love how you keep turning it towards me. This is your night, honey.
It is. But I think this is conversation.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's in conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's talk about me for the rest of the night.
Let's talk about you.
Okay.
That would actually work really well for me.
Well, that's what I was. It just goes so much in sync with how your book starts, because it starts with Pepper and a fender bender. And all I could think of is immediately you have sympathy for the main character who you're going to be on this journey with. So
Yes.
tell us about what happens in the first chapter
Yes.
that grabs people.
Well, another thing that I think that writing teachers like to say is, and I guess sort of scholars of novels like to say, is that the arc of the novel, the arc of the story ought to be there in the opening pages, which is a tall order when you think about it. And now I've said this to you, like, go forth and read, and when you're reading, see if you don't notice this. If you don't finish a book and then go back to the first page and say, oh yeah, it was all there. This book begins by saying, you know how it ends. happens. It starts with an ending, and the first thing that happens is that Pepper, our protagonist, gets she rear ends a priest, is what happens, and on account of that, by page 2, has lost her license and thereby her car and thereby her home and thereby her autonomy, and thereby, she observes, a state of affairs by which she tells her children what to do rather than her children telling her what to do, and they've decided to move her into a retirement home. Will she or no? And she kind of goes against her wishes and better judgment, and that's where we are by the end of the second page. But that really is the arc of the whole thing. That's really what the book is about, is the ways in which we lose agency and the right to make decisions for ourselves over the course of a life.
Do you find that you rewrite the first chapter like a zillion times, or just did you ever, like, in all of your 5 books that you've published, 5 or 6? 5.
This is my sixth.
6th book, okay.
My 6th book.
Do you find that, like, that first chapter is the one that just has to be written and rewritten? And
I mean, the
rewritten?
whole thing. I rewrite it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. This particular one, I found somewhere along the way, and used to be completely different. I can't remember what it used to be. I rewrote this book many, many times, so I don't remember all of its incarnations. But of the 6, I think maybe one of them.
Oh, you did?
I
You
stuck.
hit the ground running?
I stuck with the
wow.
first chapter, but for the most part, no. And I mean, not to undersell, but like, it's much easier to go back and put the whole into the first chapter
Yeah.
if you know what the whole is.
When you know
which
the
I
ending,
do not,
yeah.
which I
So
do
you,
not going in.
you know how to set up.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to another off the top of my head question is, you don't outline though. I outline like crazy, but you don't, right?
Yes. A thing that I don't know if any of you ever have taken a class where I've talked about this. If so, apologies. But I'm forever talking about Kevin in class because you will write a book a year, and you will start in January and be making that outline until like mid-October. And we'll go out to dinner at that point, and you're like, oh yeah, my book is due in a week, and I'm only on page 50. And I just think that, I mean, I would definitely not be going out to dinner, for starters.
Well, we are the Mutual Admiration Club, because
We are.
I can never figure out. I'm like, when does she write? You know, it's like, and I'll go on, check my emails, and there's an email from Laurie at like 4:30 in the
Right,
morning,
yes.
and I'm like, oh my God, what's she doing up?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm up at
And
6:30 because I haven't
exactly.
gone to bed yet.
Because
So,
you haven't gone to
but
bed
I'm,
yet,
you know,
yes. Yes, it's true. It's true. You keep odd hours.
I love
I would do what you do if I could do it.
If you didn't have a family and
No, well,
or
maybe.
didn't have a
but
job.
I do not know what's going to happen in these books.
And you like the surprise, don't you?
I do like the
Yeah.
surprise. Yeah, it's how I know it's working, is when these characters start surprising me. I don't know how you do what you do
That's
because
like question 8. Okay.
Oh,
go ahead.
we're
Don't
getting
talk
ahead of
about that
ourselves.
yet.
Okay.
No,
I mean, simply to say, I don't know how to figure out what these characters are going to do until I've met them. But they don't exist, so the only way to meet them is to write them.
Do you do a character's outline?
I don't. Again, I would do it. I don't object to it on like moral grounds. I just cannot for my life figure out how to make an outline of a thing. I don't know what is going to happen.
Do you like at least write notes about, here's, this is what Pepper's going to be like, or here's, no, it's in your head. And that, maybe that's why it just sort of like, it's like a dam bursting. You just kind of
Yes, it comes out of my fingers eventually.
Okay.
I don't make notes. I do keep a lot of notes on the draft after I've drafted it, but I think that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's totally, because I start out with the notes.
I
and
know
it's
you do.
like, yeah, and it's like, I would like have, Pepper is how old, and which I ask you out, but, I will, don't you hate it when you like hear these writer teachers who's like, you should know what's in everybody's desk drawer or
Yeah.
their nightstand
Right.
drawer of all your characters, and it's like, oh, give me a break,
Right.
It's like, but, I could try at least to know enough about the characters before I dive in. Okay, so I'm going to sidetrack. I have a story
Oh, tell
with
us.
an amateur writer.
Okay.
I was telling him, you need a stronger character. You need, your character needs to be a little bit stronger the guy made him a boxer. I was like, that's not
It's
what I meant.
stronger.
That's not what I meant. Anyway, my next question, where in the world did you get the idea to
Yeah.
write about a 77-year-old resident of a retirement home in Texas who finds out she's pregnant?
Who finds out she's pregnant? Yes, it is a little bit of an unhinged premise. This is definitely true. I mean, this is
But
what
it grabs you right away.
I mean, it grabs you. This is what everyone has asked. And in fact, the follow-up question is often, having had that idea, why on earth did you stick with it? Like, you can, like, all sorts of things go through your head. It doesn't mean that you have to write about them, which is a thing that I thought myself many, many, many times in the course of this thing. It seemed to me, I mean, I don't know where these ideas come from. I wish I did, because it would be super if they came more often. But I think that in some ways the seed of this was planted when my grandmother got sick when I was in my 20s with what we later learned was lung cancer. But at the beginning, she was just kind of like nauseous and fuzzy-headed and confused. And
you were close to her, too.
And we were very close, and she just felt kind of off. And I mean, it's a little too much information, but we're close. I was in my 20s, like pregnancy was on my mind, and we were joking with, I know, we were joking with each other, like maybe she was pregnant. She wasn't pregnant. She had lung cancer, and which I feel the need to pause and say, she had been smoking. She was in her mid-80s. She'd been smoking since she was 13. She earned her lung cancer. But I think that the seed of that planted really deep and then lay dormant for, 2.5 decades, basically, until I came back to it. That's some of the answer. Some of the answer is that there are all sorts of issues surrounding pregnancy and reproductive freedom and agency and autonomy and who gets to make what kind of decisions about bodies. And we don't have good conversations about those things. We talk about it a lot, but not in a way where we're actually having a discussion. And I feel like that's what novels are for, is for you to be able to have a conversation. And so this struck me as a useful lens through a different, lens through which to talk about something that we are always running our mouths about but never really listening to each other.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
because you're not going to change their mind. Yeah.
Because you're not going to change anybody's mind.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And they're not going to change yours.
And they're not going to change yours. But there is all of this common ground, and there is all of this gray area. And so it seemed to me that we could have a conversation about it if we could dress that conversation up in a different way. So that instead of talking about what happens when 30-year-olds get pregnant, we're talking about what happens when 77-year-olds get pregnant. That's what I thought. And it was just sort of like a passing idle thought. Like, I wonder if this would work.
And it's not like
it never stopped being interesting. It's super interesting.
And it's not like it's never happened, right? It's happened in real life, hasn't it?
And it's not like it's never happened. So that was it's never happened quite in the way that I have imagined it, which is, I'm entitled because it's a novel.
Yeah.
It is definitely true that I went into it thinking I wasn't going to explain it to you. I just wanted it to be magic. I wanted it to be, I think all the time we read things that are unexplained, where there's this like little kernel at the middle of like, well, it just is that way. It's don't ask why. In fact, I feel a little bit often when myself I'm asking why, like the book or the movie or whatever is shaming me. Like you shouldn't be asking that question. That's the wrong question to be asking. And I definitely went into it very much like, shut up, I don't want to tell you why. She just is. She's pregnant. Take it. Like, accept this. Go away. But first of all, I thought that was going to piss people off. And I don't want to piss people off. I want everyone to be happy. And, you will have enough to be angry about. You don't need to be angry about what you're reading. I feel that's asking too much. But also, the more I started looking into this, the more possible it got. And there are people even older than 77 who have successfully carried pregnancies to term. Now, those people were not, they may or may not have been having sex, but that isn't how they got pregnant. They got pregnant via donated eggs and a great deal of science. Okay. But it seems to me those are details.
Yes.
And the more I started looking into gene therapies and hormone therapies and these experimental drug treatments, also the more I started to think like, okay, actually there are all sorts of interesting precedents for this. Yeah. So it became less fantastical than I imagined it was going to be going in.
Oh my God.
I know.
I love it. Well,
I
why
know.
77? Did you come up with that number by yourself, or did you just? I mean,
I fought for that number. I
did
fought
you
for that
fight?
number. Yes.
Oh, get
yes,
outta here.
I
What
did.
happened?
Well, my agent kept saying it's too old. It's too old. In fact, she started at 58. She
Come on.
she tried to talk me down to 58, and I said no. And so then she was ready to settle for like 63, and I said no to that too. I wanted her to be really old. In fact, my reaction to her saying 58 was, I'm going to make her 97. Like, I really, really wanted her to be old. I wanted her to be genuinely old. In fact, I think 77 is just simply not as old as it used to be.
Yes.
And
Said the 70-year-old.
Exactly.
That's a young child.
I mean, truly, all ages sound old until you get there,
Yes.
and then they don't
Then they
anymore.
don't.
And 77. I really, really wanted her to be old. I also think it sounds nice. I think 77 scans
it sort
well.
of sticks in your head.
Yeah. But I did battle. I did battle for 77. Yeah.
Did you, when you started this book, did you want to set it in Texas, or was it like, okay, what? So you arrived at Texas
Yes.
from the
I
start.
arrived at Texas.
All
So the
right.
first time I wrote this book, I wrote it in 2017. Remember 2017? It was a
Yeah.
kinder, gentler
Yes.
time. I wrote this book in 2017. I set it in Seattle because I live here, and it sort of didn't matter where. I mean, one of the things that I think is really interesting about writing about a retirement community is it's a very closed, cloistered community, and everything happens in the building. I mean, this is really the sales pitch is you live there, but you also eat there, and your friends are there, and your activities are there, and your medical care is there, and you don't have to leave. And so it didn't in many ways matter where I set it. And I wrote that whole book. Wrote it, revised it, polished it, the whole thing. And then
we're ready to send it out.
ready to send it, and then I put it in a drawer and wrote 2 more books. I could not quite convince you that this character would do anything other than have an abortion in this situation, and I walked away from it. And I took it back out in 2023 when I turned 50 and was thinking of aging. It was on my mind, and then all I had to do was reset it in Texas or any of the 13 other states where abortion had become illegal in the intervening 6 years, and thereby bridged that plot hole, but also refocused the novel where it was meant to be all along, which is on these issues of agency and bodily autonomy, and how that relates to aging and how that relates to
Not only
motherhood.
pregnancy, but aging.
Exactly.
Yes, so much.
Right, which had been my intention going in, but I had spent so much time trying to convince you that this was a choice she would make, that Texas took that choice out of her hands, and many other people's as well. I also, though, want to say in defense of Texas that I had my choice of 13 states, and Texas, I think, is purpler every day. It's a very diverse state. It's very big. It's very jubilant. They got a lot going on, and that's great on the page. And it allowed me, as I say, it's not a book about abortion, and I'm not really interested in having that fight with anybody. I can't win that fight. So I want to talk about all the other stuff, and Texas is really, really good for talking about all the other stuff, too.
Did you have to do a lot of research? I mean, on Texas, and also on, like, I was thinking, you just gave away that you're 50, so which I never would have guessed.
No, obviously, I'm very young.
You're a glam
Clearly,
gal.
yes, I am.
But, as somebody who just turned 70, I'm like, I didn't know at 60 that my body was
Yeah.
going to be like this. Like, what am I do? Why am I thinking the thoughts I'm thinking? Why are all my discussions with my friends all about health? And that thing in my arm went away, and and it's like, it has no longer to do with the hot guy at the gym or something.
Right.
It's like, no, I went to the gym and I pulled my back out again. It's like it's the opposite.
It's not as exciting as the hot guy at the gym.
So I mean, how do you get inside the head of a 77-year-old? Did you do a lot of research for that, and for Texas, and for the medical part? I know in your other books you've just done tons of research.
Yes, I did. I did tons of research. It's interesting because I am usually pretty bored by the research. And in this case, it was super fascinating. I mean, drug trials are really interesting. The things we are doing right now with gene therapy, I find to be mind-blowing. And then, yes, I did a lot of research into legislation, and I mean, I don't know anything about laws in Texas and how they're applied. That too, not uplifting, but definitely fascinating research. And yeah, research. I mean, I don't live in a retirement community. I did do a lot of research.
Well, I know when you did the book, I can never get the title right.
Right. This is how it always is.
This is how it always is.
Right.
I always butcher the title every time I try and say it.
It's an impossible title to remember. I told them that no one was going to be able to remember
Well,
that title.
you went and got on a plane.
Yes, that's right.
Did you do the same thing for Texas?
Yes, I did. I just flew back from Texas. Yesterday, the day before, sometime recently. I was just there for book tour. But no, I did not go to research. I have been there. It's set in Austin. I have been in Austin many times, so I didn't feel like I had to go. In part, again, because they don't leave very much. They leave a little bit, but for the most part, it's it's something of like a locked door mystery. Do you ever write locked door mysteries?
No.
I think you don't. You send people out to be murdered.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things that I want to tell you all is, in case you don't know, is that when you buy Kevin's books, they're all people being murdered in Seattle, and so then you can't go at places anymore because you're
totally
like, well, I can't walk down these stairs because someone was murdered on these stairs, and you never forget. And once you've read 25 or so of these books, there's almost nowhere you can go in the city because Kevin has killed someone everywhere.
I've run out of places to kill people in Seattle. So if you come up with any new ideas.
That's
right.
I mean, these are pretty steep stairs.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, I've actually had.
You've
a couple
killed someone
of
in the
scenes
library.
this
Yes, of
library
course you
too.
have. I think that tension, or like the kind of desert island where you put everybody and you lock them in and you throw away the key and you see what happens. And retirement communities are a lot like that.
A lot like that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which makes them great to write about.
You picked your own title.
I picked my own title.
I know, and I don't think you've been able to do that for a few of your books.
This is my second title. It's my sixth book and my second title. I know. Yes, I picked this title, Enormous Wings. It comes from a short story called A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which you probably read in high school because everybody read it in high school. But you probably don't remember it, so therefore I had to make the main character an English teacher, so I had an excuse to explain to you this short story in case you didn't remember. It's a great story, though. It's widely anthologized. It'll take you 3 minutes of Googling to pull this thing up. You should read it. It's really great. But it is about, it's about a very old man with enormous wings who washes up on a beach during a storm, and a couple is walking, and they come upon him, and they think, here is a human with wings. It's got to be an angel. And their neighbors are all like, he's gross, he's smelly. That's not what angels are like. Angels are beautiful, angels are heavenly, and angels are young. And we don't want our miracles to be stinky and unexpected. We want our miracles actually to be fairly predictable and along a script, which is kind of the opposite of what a miracle is doing. And so I thought, this is really, in fact, what I was trying to explain to my husband in very early days of this drafting, what I was trying to do with this book. And I said, it's just like that short story, Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I never read that short story. So I said, never mind, it's fine. I'm going to write it into the book. And so then I did. I wrote it in hard enough that they couldn't change the title.
I love that. That's so smart.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay. So many of your books have to do with moms and grandmothers.
Yeah.
So I just was curious, that's no accident, is it?
No, it's true. I mean, I was very, very close with both of my grandmothers.
Was Pepper based on one of them?
I mean, I think she's 50-50 each of them, really. One of them was very much like a badass, which Pepper is, and like super involved in things and very social. And the other was very bookish. She liked to in fact, they lived in a retirement community together.
Get out of here.
They did because
Oh
because they were trying to make my parents' lives easier, and which is the same decision that Pepper makes. But she's only one person. I think she's pretty much merging of my grandmother's. That character is in all of my books. I don't think I've written a book without. Have I written a book without a grandmother?
Yeah. Well, the one with the computer.
Yeah.
Goodbye for now. Wasn't that?
Yeah, right. Isn't it interesting how
we know each other's books?
Yes, exactly. I don't know. I can't remember. that character always shows up in my books. Either she's a grandmother or she's another elderly woman who comes and shows up. Sometimes, in fact, in 1, 2, 3, she showed up pretty late, and I thought, oh, hooray, I know you. Welcome to the book. I recognize you. I'd recognize you anywhere. I was very close with my grandmothers. I think that, and I'm very close with my kid, and my kid is very close with her grandmother. So, all of that tracks, which is so cool. I think that we are writing about and talking about motherhood endlessly, although I also think probably not enough. I think that motherhood doesn't get sold enough for the power that is inherent. I think instead it gets like sappy and cheesy. But I really think that we undersell grandmothers and granddaughters. I think that relationship isn't talked about as much. Well, so I'm here for that.
I think
I'm here for that relationship.
It's blooming more today too, as that grandmothers play such an important role. I mean, I know half my sisters take care of their grandkids while they're like the built-in nanny and stuff like that.
Yes, right,
Anyway,
right.
like, speaking of kids,
Yes.
there are 3 grown kids in Enormous Wings.
Yes.
And did you have a favorite? Did you
interesting.
Or, how? And you have one sibling, so it's kind of. I'm wondering how it is to. Your books usually have big families too, and it's like you have one sibling. So
I know. I like big families. I would like to have had 5 children, but I only had 1 child, and I'm not sure if I would have liked to have 5 siblings. But I think I would like to have 5 siblings. I think it would be a lot of fun. I like my sister, but it would be nice if there were more of her, right? Yeah. I like to write families. Siblings, I think, are so interesting to write about because not always, but usually they're related. They share the nature part, and not always, but usually they share the nurture part too. They're raised by the same people in the same town with the same education, in the same community with all of that. They share that, and yet they're wildly different people. And so I always think that siblings are fun to write. You'll have to tell us because you have infinity siblings. I couldn't figure out how to do more than 3 and not have the book be too long.
Yeah, that's one of the things. It's like, oh my God, if I get more kids in here, I'm going to have to, it's so much easier to, just have your heroine or hero be an only child. It's like, yeah.
Yes. I wonder how your parents felt, though, about having so many children.
I do too.
About how they could fit all of you into the same story.
That's a great question. I think they actually, we're Catholic a go-go, and there's 6 kids in our family, and when I think we were moving from one house to another, my sister was cleaning out some drawer and found Cardinal Spellman's Guide to the Rhythm Method.
Wow.
Dated a year before she was born, and she's my older sister, so it's like, okay, I don't think we were wanted, and it's like, my parents were like, oh no, we wanted to have more kids. It was like, their pants were so on fire. Anyway.
I mean, and which is some of what this book is about too, is that our notions of reproductive freedom change over, if you live for 77 years,
yes,
changes enormously. Yes. And that's very important too. Pepper is Jewish, so she doesn't have this problem, but she does have these 3 children, and they are my age. They are my generation, and they're very different from one another. And that allowed me to look at all of the different ways that people deal with this issue, which is like, people get old and then they need to be taken care of, and then what? And there are a whole lot of options, and none of them are perfect. And in many ways, none of them are very good. And these 3 people respond to this problem and the problem of their mother getting knocked up in a whole range of ways, and that's what I like about.
Did you feel like siblings. One of them had to be the heavy?
Like one of them was right?
Yeah, or one of them is always right, so to speak, or you know what I mean? It's like, Usually it's the oldest that's like the most
Yeah.
responsible, and Mr. or Miss take
I know,
charge
right?
and stuff like
In
that.
this case, I made the middle one a lawyer because I had a lot of things I knew I was going to need to explain to you about legislation and the legalities of all sorts of things in Texas. So I knew I needed a lawyer who was going to need to be able to explain all of that to you. And then I sandwiched them on either end with characters who are stranger.
Well, Pepper is an older heroine, so which is really welcome. I mean, and it's about time. I think we're seeing a lot more older heroines in fiction now, which is terrific. In fact, I was just watching Remarkably Bright Creatures,
Oh, yeah.
and with Sally Field, and I kept thinking,
Is it filmed here?
it's. I have a feeling it's. Does anybody? Is it
Is
Vancouver?
Vancouver,
I
yeah.
was. It had Canada written all over
I
it,
see.
but they were trying
That's
to pass it off
disappointing.
as Washington State.
Yeah.
But-
Even the aquarium is not ours?
I don't think so. I have a feeling the aquarium was a set.
Rude.
So, but yeah, but she was great, and I kept thinking, Pepper, this could be
Yeah,
Pepper.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
ever cast your own?
I do not. I mean, in fact, you're a good person to do this because you watch a lot more movies than I
not
do.
in this movie, yeah.
And so I'm going to be led by you in this wisdom. I've cast in my head her boyfriend, Moth. I would like Mark Rylance, but I would
Oh,
take
he'd
Mark
be great.
Rylance really to do anything at any time that he wanted to do.
Because he's a Shakespearean actor,
Yes,
isn't he?
because he's a
Of course he
Shakespearean
is.
actor. Yes,
But
he's very talented.
You knew it was going to
yes,
come
and
back
lovely.
to Shakespeare.
And that was true all along, actually. It wasn't that I cast him after the fact. It was that I had him in my head while I was writing.
Isn't it great, though, when
It
you
is.
do actually see the person and you're
Yeah.
writing about them? Because you're like, I can see them doing this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah.
Well, and I otherwise can't see them. I don't see characters. I don't know what they look like. I don't see rooms that they're in. I don't see anything.
Really?
Yes, it turns out that, I have learned from doing author talks like this that some people, when they say, "Oh, I can picture that," what they mean is they can picture that. Like pictures exist in their heads of
Yeah.
things. I don't have pictures in my head. I don't even know what that means. I thought it was like a saying. I thought it was a metaphor. But it turns out, no, that's what people actually mean.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're saying. So I can't picture these characters because I don't picture them. I don't picture anything. But Mark Rylance, I could pull up a picture of him on my computer and look at him with my eyeballs. and that helps with that.
Oh, that's fun. Okay. Speaking of actresses,
Yeah.
you got one of my favorite TV moms to do the narrative of the audiobook.
I know.
I know. Can you tell the
Yes.
folks here about the audiobook?
I can, yes. The audiobook is narrated by Becky Ann Baker, who is amazing and who auditioned for this.
I can't believe she auditioned.
I know, I couldn't believe she
was the
auditioned
mom in
either.
Freaks and Geeks.
She was the mom in Freaks and
Anybody
Geeks,
saw that?
yes.
And she was also the mom. Is it Girls that she was the mom?
Yes,
in
she's
too?
the mom of Girls. Yeah, she's Ted Lasso's mom. She's everybody's mom. She was fantastic. Sometimes when you want famous people to do your audiobooks, they won't audition for you, and you just have to take them on blind faith. But she auditioned, and they sent a bunch of auditions. It's very difficult for me to listen to them because it's like crawling into your own ear. It is an extremely strange sensation. But there was no question. What it is she made me laugh, and I can recite this book. And
love it.
that is a really, really remarkable thing. She's really funny. She can do all of these accents. I didn't even.
So she can throw her voice and all that. other
She can
stuff?
do everything. Yeah.
Oh, God, that's so
she's
great.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to just do one more question, and then I think we're going to have time for some Q&A
Okay.
here.
Awesome.
And we actually covered this. I was going to ask about, you know what, I'm going to skip this one because you already talked about the controversial issues.
I know, yeah.
But we're going to we're done talking about Enormous Wings, but before I forget, right after this, Laurie's going to be signing right there, so buy a copy. And Mother's Day is coming up.
No, Mother's Day
Mother's
just
Day's
happened.
gone. Well, see, my mom's dead. I don't remember Mother's Day anymore. You
poor
can
mom.
always, Father's Day. Go ahead and get it
That's
for
true.
Dad's Day.
That's right. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Anyway, I was going to ask us book recommendations. Give us some book recommendations.
Oh, book recommendations.
Yes.
Oh God, that's a great idea. What are
Well, I know you loved London Falling.
I did. I
You were saying,
loved.
"Ooh, I'm hearing applause for that.
Nice. I
already."
know. I
Yes.
loved that book. I loved London Falling. And it is unusual for me to be recommending nonfiction, only because it's unusual for me to be reading nonfiction. And I thought that book blew me away. And that book is another book that I listened to. He reads it himself, which is interesting. And in fact, it's mostly an aside, but he's American, but he spent a lot of time, obviously, in the UK, in London, researching the book. And he has that thing that happens, I think, to many of us when we go to London, which is you start speaking with an accent like half.
Referring to their schedule?
Yes, exactly. And I loved that book. I loved that book. I've been recommending Shobha Rao's new book, which is called Indian Country, to everybody who will sit still long enough to listen. I loved this book. What do I want to say about it by way of introduction? Almost nothing. It is a different take on an immigrant story, and I think really, really necessary and important and beautifully written. But also, it's a murder mystery. So it will keep you engaged and turning pages. I'm forever recommending to everybody Naomi Alderman, and I think that probably everyone read The Power and should have, but you should read The Future, which is the follow-up novel, which is fantastic. And her new novel is coming out in October, I think, but I don't remember what it's called. Oh, and Ruth Ozeki has a new short story collection coming out in June. It's called The Typing Lady.
And you probably already read it?
I haven't read it yet.
Okay.
You would honestly think somebody would send me a copy.
Yeah,
right?
come on.
I know. I haven't read it yet, but I will be buying it the hour it comes out.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm recommending that to everybody too, even though I haven't read it yet. I have that much faith.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
We're going to run mics so you can hear the questions.
Okay, I'm going to recommend one more book, okay?
Yeah, keep going.
No, you have to interrupt because I could do this all night long. But I'm also recommending to everybody The Beheading Game. Her name is Rebecca Lehman, with 2 N's.
Beheading Game.
The Beheading Game. That was great too. Anne Boleyn gets her head cut off, comes back to life, sews it back on. Don't you want to read that book? I know.
And sorry to interrupt those excellent suggestions. We're ready to take questions and answers, but by the way, Laurie just wrote an article for LitHub called We Need More Geriatric Heroines, which has some also great suggestions.
I forgot about that article.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it existed.
Yes, it just came out 7 days ago.
Oh,
so
super.
it's there.
You don't Google yourself half as often as I do.
Absolutely do not.
You don't have a lot of time on your hands like
That's
me.
true.
It's like,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
Google
I'll be right
myself
back to you.
again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to know.
Okay. You don't
It was
wanna
because
hear
that question you begged off on
That was
about
the one I didn't
controversies.
ask.
Exactly.
Okay.
People want to send me nasty things I don't want to know about them.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm curious, since you don't picture your characters and you don't write outlines, what is your process for writing?
What is my process for writing? Yes, because it's not picturing things. You're right. I mean, so what is easy for me is I hear them. I hear them, and in a very literal way that I guess is what people mean when they say they picture things. I literally actually hear them. So the dialogue comes really easily. It's all of the rest of the stuff, like the exposition, that I have a great deal of difficulty with. I think that pretty much everyone has some things that in writing that come really easily, and so you get those things for free, and then it's just a question of doing all of the other things that are really, really hard for you. My process is terrifying, but I'll tell you, but remember you asked, which is that basically it is like wandering around in my house in the dark, bumping into walls for like a few years. And I'm just throwing stuff at a wall until the walls that I'm bumping into, to see what will stick. And eventually I come upon the ending of the book, and then I realize all the things I was wrong about. So I have to go to back to the beginning and fix everything that didn't go with that ending, and then I have to go back to the beginning and fix everything that I broke when I fixed all those plot holes, and then I go back to the beginning and write it to the end, and I fix the things, and I do that like 300 or 400 or 500 times, and then lo and behold, it's not it is not a linear, quick process, unfortunately, which is why if I could outline it before I started, I absolutely would. But see, here we are. This is like a whole night of here are some things I can't do. I can't picture things. I can't outline things. I don't know what's going to happen. So it is a writing process very heavily focused on revising. But it's really great. I mean, if like I said, the scary thing, it was scary. But also, I think it's really nice because it's like cleaning your house. It's very gratifying. You show up and it's a disaster, and then you make it a little bit better, and it's less of a disaster, and you're like, oh, so much better, and it keeps getting better. It gets better and better and better, which is because it starts out such a mess. But still, I think that's very gratifying. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for sharing all your process and stories. So fun. When we first walked in, I heard mention of Shakespeare, and I'm a super Shakespeare dork too. So I have to know. Like, I know you didn't want to ask the question, but I'll ask the question. I have to know, and I have like two-part question. Would
wait.
you ever include your love of the Bard in any of your writing? And second part of the question is like, what's your favorite way to consume Shakespeare?
My favorite way to consume Shakespeare? Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, first of all, thank you, because nobody ever asks me about Shakespeare, and you'll soon see why, because in 45 minutes I will still be answering this question. I'm gonna, exactly. I mean, my favorite way to consume Shakespeare is live, definitely. I am flying to England in October to see As You Like It, the RSC, because Jonathan Groff is playing Rosalind, which honestly, they sent me, I'm on the mailing list, so I got the like pre-announcement of the thing, and I have never ordered theater tickets more quickly. And so I mean, in a perfect world, what I like to do is go to London and see Shakespeare. Yes. Okay. But I settle for lots of other things because the more Shakespeare, the better. I mean, we have really good Shakespeare here, I think. We're very lucky to have very good Shakespeare here and parks in which it's really nice to sit outside. I'm from the East Coast. When you go to Shakespeare in the Park on the East Coast, it's very hot. There are often bats. It's really terrible. When you go to the park here to see Shakespeare, it's lovely. The weather is beautiful. It's not going to rain on you. It's fantastic. There are not that many bats. It's awesome. It's going to stay light until 11. Okay. To the first part of your question, I don't think I've ever written anything that didn't have Shakespeare in it. I think, like grandmothers, I don't think I've ever written a novel that didn't have Shakespeare in it. Among other things, I find that when I've written myself into a corner, the answer is almost always Hamlet. Whatever I feel you are looking for in life, you're pretty much going to find it in Hamlet. And so this is true of real people, of characters in addition to real people. I write about Shakespeare all the time. And I mean, and as with short stories you have not read since high school, it requires some explanation. I don't want to assume that everyone is as obsessed with Hamlet as I am, and that is because no one is as obsessed with Hamlet as I am. But I do find that it's always interesting, and if I can explain it quickly, and I can, then that's shared text, that's shared heritage. And I love it, so then I want everyone to love it too. That was nice of you to ask. Thank you for that. I was so brief, you all. That could have gone on for hours. Tell me.
So I've noticed in your books that a lot of your characters have very unusual names. Like I'm reading 1, 2, 3 right now, Monday, and thinking of some of your other books that I've already read. And it just struck me as soon as I started reading 1, 2, 3 and her name was Monday, I was like, oh, it was kind of the first time I noticed that a lot of your characters have not, they're not Bill and Sue and Bob, And so it just struck me, like, is there a reason for that?
Yes.
Is it like being a grade school teacher and like you don't want to name them Susie because you knew a Susie and you didn't like her, or?
Right. I mean, no, but that's a good guess. Two reasons. One is names are free character development for the people who did the naming. So not so much the character who probably didn't have anything to do with it, but it tells you an awful lot about their parents. And when the parents are also characters in the book, that's great. I don't have to give you a scene telling you whatever about that character. You know everything you need to know about this character because they named their middle kid Monday. That's great. And it's free. So I love it. The other thing is that as a reader, it drives me out of my brain when I cannot keep track of characters. And I start to think that this is another one of these things, like I can't picture things in my head. I can't keep track of character names when they're the same kind of name. It's not that they rhyme, and it's not that they start with the same letter. It's that it's like it's stored in the same place in my head. It's like short, normal boy's name. So then it's like Josh, Todd, Matt, Doug, Scott. That's all one name in my head. I cannot keep track of those people. And so then they disappear for 20 pages and come back, and it's really important that I know who that is, and there's a clue, and I have no idea who that person is. So I try to name characters. They're not all weird. They're only some weird. Like one is weird, and one is weird but with a story, and one is is named after someone who I've also given you, and so I want to give you a reason for the names so that you can keep track of them in your brain. I'm on the side of your brain.
Thank you.
Is what it is.
Hi, Laurie.
Hiya.
This is more a meta question. Can you comment on how women are doing in the publishing world now, and the doors are open, or if the anti-DEI prevailing sentiment amongst powerful people in our country is forcing any changes or impacting the doors that are open, or are they closing? That sort of, you're an established novelist at this time, so I assume things are good for you and you getting published, but I don't know, what's your comment about how things are for access and to publishers and getting new work printed and published and things like that for women?
Yeah, it's such a good big question. It's such a good big question. And it's hard to know where to start. One of the things that I want to say about publishing is it is full of very badass women who read a lot and really well and are very dedicated to making the world a better place through books. I have met more of them in publishing than in any other area of my life, including academia. And so that's saying something. And frequently, they are people with staying power. They're in these jobs for a really long time. And so they are perhaps less buffeted by the winds of change, maybe. They are at the moment mad as hell, and that is also fuel, and they're not wrong. There are lots of ways in which it is a difficult time for publishing. There are ways in which it's a difficult time for books. People aren't reading as much as once they did, or are not reading books as much as once they did. The book bans are appalling, even though I also think they're not especially effective. There are ways in which I think really they're just putting out a list for you of books that you should go read. Yeah, right, because you can order them online. But that's not the same as having them in the library. That's not the same as having them in the classroom. So I think that's really terrible. I think this is to that question that you shied away from, so that I will curse less, which is, I think that publishing would like it if we were writing things that were somewhat less controversial. They'd rather if I didn't write about abortion. They would rather if it were controversial in a way that isn't going to piss off lots of people, non-confrontational, yeah. And so I think we're just kind of finding our way through. The thing, though, that I really, really think about publishing is it's unbelievably slow to change. The whole book publishing process takes years. I mean, it takes like 18 months after it leaves my hands. It's very slow. It imagines that everybody is reading a book in print, and that, I mean, we still send Word documents back and forth, which is insane. And I think that though puts them in good stead to fight these kind of, to weather things like the current moment, because this guy is gonna go away. Sooner would be better, but soon enough. And publishing doesn't change that quickly. And so I think that they're hunkered down for the good fight, and I am very grateful to be part of it. Thank you for that question.
When you first started writing, when was that? And did you have mentors that help you get through the tough times and help you keep going?
Yes, no, I had absolutely no idea what the hell I was doing. Absolutely none whatever. I was teaching writing, but like not creative writing. I was teaching college. I was teaching Shakespeare and literature and comp and gender studies. Academia has absolutely nothing to do with writing fiction. I was teaching other people who wrote fiction, but it turned out to be a completely different thing, which was very surprising to me. I had no idea what I was doing. I was teaching in Baltimore, and then I met a boy, that one, who lived out here, and so then we spent a few years going back and forth. I would teach in Baltimore, and then I came out here for the summers, causing me to think that Seattle has the greatest weather in the entire world. We got married in July, and everything was fine for a couple of months. And then there was that first fall, and I was like, oh, I see what I've done here. So I left that job, and then I taught at the University of Puget Sound. And in between those two things, I had like 6 months when I was unemployed for the first time in my life. And I thought, I wonder if I could write a novel. I think it's not a thing you can know whether you can do until you have done it. I feel like if you want to know if you can write a sonnet, you should sit down and try. But novels are, really big and long, and I hadn't had 6 months to try, and I hadn't had a writing course ever in my life. But I had read like 10,000 novels, so I was like, I kind of understand how this is done. I understand how this goes together. I started keeping a journal, which I still do, about everything I read, where I was like, okay, how is this put together? So, what is working and how has it been made to work, and what sucks about this book, and why, and how can I avoid that myself? And I started writing all that stuff down, and then I drafted it, and then I drafted a book, and it was terrible. And so, but it existed, and so then I just kept revising it and revising it and revising it until it looked like the books that I read. And then I got an agent, and at that point I started to have people who did know what they were doing. But until that point, I hadn't the vaguest idea. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that either, but it worked for me. And the other thing that was nice about that particular schedule is that I didn't even look at the book during the semester. So I would, I would hand in grades at the end of May, and then I would sit down and write all summer. And then in mid-August, when I had to make a syllabus, put it away and not think about it. Well, and not look at it, not touch it for like 9 months. But like it was in my brain. It was percolating in there. So then when I sat down in May, I was ready to write, and I feel like the goal is always to be able to write as fast as you can type. And the key to that for me was to not do it for 9 months. Again, not something I would recommend to writing students, but that was what I had. It would be better if I had known people.
Let's see. So you write beautiful, beautiful characters. And beautifully also.
Thank you.
I love your characters. Adult characters, older characters, but especially children. In Family, those beautiful, quirky children. How do you get all of their great personalities? Do you have little notes everywhere? What about if this person does this and they say that, and then also the dialogue. Your dialogue is chef's kiss. So just want to know how you develop these characters, and maybe especially children.
Yes. First of all, thank you. That's very kind of you. I know, right? Yeah, I paid her. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I love writing children. Children are great. I mean, children are really funny, I think. And the ones that you make up are, well, they're easier than the ones who live in your house. And they're easier to parent because you can say, oh, sorry, that came out wrong, and delete it and try again, which is very freeing. Kids are funny. They say funny things. They are at once not as smart as adults because they haven't lived as long, they haven't been to school, whatever, and much, much smarter than adults because they don't have all of the social pressures and, the need to make nice and fit in and all of those things. And then as readers, as adult readers, you read them and it's like you do two things at once. You hear what they say, and also you understand what they're wrong about, and also you understand what they mean. So it's like it's doing all of those things at the same time, which is always. I mean, this is what prevents your books from being 900 pages long. Is you take one sentence and make it do three different things at the same time. And kids are great for that. They're really fun to read. And once you start writing them, they start talking to you very quickly. Always I am waiting for the characters to start talking to me. And with adults, it takes a long time. And with kids, they're talking to you almost immediately. I don't know why that is. Because kids are funny. They're just funny. And they're a delight to write. They're a delight on the page. I'm always wanting more of them. Most of the kids in this book are slightly older, and I miss having. There are a couple little kids, and they get like a scene or two, but not as much as I wanted to give them. They got cut, but they're a joy to write. Always a joy, delight. So thank you. I'm glad you like them. I like them too. I feel like this job is a really good workout because you're like up and down the stairs passing microphones.
So I have a question for you. You just said something that I was like, what? So you write as fast as you can?
Do I write as fast as I can?
You just said, I write as fast as I can.
Oh, yes. Yes. What I was saying was I try to get it so that I'm writing as fast as I can type. So that the only thing that's limited is like how fast I can get it out of my fingers. And almost never. But it's the goal. I do, because I know I'm going to have to cut so much and revise so much, it's really good for me to write quickly. When I'm drafting, I do 1,000 words a day, non-negotiable. And that's not very much. It's a page and a half-ish. But every day and without fail and without compromise. But towards the end of that draft, I'll be able to do 3 or 4 or 5 or 6,000 words a day because I figured out what's going to happen, and then it just comes out. And I'm not stopping to say that wasn't good. I'm not stopping to look things up in a thesaurus. I'm just getting it down. And at that point, you can write really, really quickly. I think that one of the things that slows writers down is trying to write well. And I've freed myself of that. Not because I'm trying, to help you to buy a book here. I hasten to say it's not because by the time it's done, it's badly written. It's that I am saying to myself the entire time, you can do it later, you can fix it later, you can get to that later, and I am doing that right up until the very, 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 very end, which means that so my husband and I just went on my 50th birthday trip right before I turned 52. Am I 52? Yeah. And we went to Turkey. It was amazing. And I was doing fourth pass the whole time because they're like, if you want to look at this thing one more time, you have 2 weeks to do it. And there were those 2 weeks. And I did want to look at fourth pass one more time. And so I did it on vacation. And that was the moment where I stopped being able to say, I'll fix it later. At which point I have to actually commit to, all of the times where I can't decide whether this comma belongs there emotionally. I understand that it belongs there grammatically, but that's not the same question. That is a decision that I put off and I put off and I put off and I put off, and eventually I'm at later, and there is no more later. But until then, there is. And so if I do that very quickly, then I can manage to not take 10 years to.
So the
get book
edit,
out.
you do everything, and then you edit after.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I keep a cuts folder into which I put all. So I think I cut like 600, 700,000 words from this book. And I think it's about 80, maybe 1,000. This is the shortest book I've ever written. I was so pleased with myself. My agent said, it's like a pamphlet from you. Because I get wordy. I keep a cuts folder, and I put everything in it, and I have to do this because otherwise I get really precious and attached. And I'm like, oh, but that metaphor is so good, and oh, I just did such a pretty job with that sentence, or it's this line of dialogue is so funny. And it doesn't matter because this chapter has to get cut, because this character has to get cut, because this plot line has to get cut. So I can't get attached to anything. It all goes in the cuts folder. And what I say to myself is, you can take that out at any time. You can have that back. I never take anything out of that folder, ever. But I have it there so that I will make myself do it, which is also, by the way, the reason why I tell students, don't use a thesaurus until you are well into it, because it's hard to cut sentences that are really beautiful, but you have to do it anyway. So it's easier if they're crap sentences. If it's a crappy metaphor, then you don't get attached and you feel no problem with cutting it. And that speeds the process.
Well, we have time for one more question, if there's one more burning question.
Yes, burning question.
And honestly, knowing that there's a cut folder and hearing about your whole process is just testament to the fact that you need to buy Enormous Wings,
Yeah.
check it out from the library, and tell your friends.
Yes, right. So you can see what made the cut.
Any other questions? There we go. One more question, and then we're going to get to the book signing, which is also fun.
Since we learned that you started Enormous Wings quite some time ago, what is your next project? Do you have one brewing?
Yes, this is a super question. I would tell you what it was about if I knew, but I don't at the moment. In fact, I would tell you what it's about, and then when you come back here in, let's call it 4 years, but who can say? And you'll say like, oh, you read a different book, and I'll say, no, that was that book. It just turned out to be about a different thing. I start the next one. I always start the next one because it takes me so long to do it, and it's what I think keeps you sane during this part of the process. That's like letting the book out into the world is quite terrifying. So it's nice to have a world that you control. And I mean, the country, you will have noticed, is like on fire. Let me assure you that of the things that are going on right now, none of them would be happening if I were in charge. And so it's really nice to be writing fiction where I am in charge. It is really good to have a world that is where there's, first of all, narrative justice and the bad guys get punished. Is awesome. And it is nice to have a world that you control when you are surrounded by a world that you don't. Yes. So I don't know, but when I find out, I'll keep you posted, and I appreciate your asking.
Thank you, Seattle Public Library, and
Yeah.
thank you, Elliott Bay Books.
That's what I was about to say. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Elliott Bay, for schlepping all of these books over here. Thank you to the library for being a library. We are all very, very grateful. It means the world.